Alrighty, welcome. It's been a while since we've done a drawn out, but this is the reward for the winner of the My Dress Up PNGtuber design contest. This is the design made by the delightful Caboose McGrief. Thank you so much for participating, and let's talk about it and my process of drawing it here. So first, you may notice that I've already got a very light sketch already down. It's because, I knew the vibe I wanted to roll with for the picture here, but I needed to figure out what I wanted the composition to be. You know, I couldn't quite figure out just mentally how I wanted to be standing and stuff. So I did a bunch of sketches in a sketchbook first. And I found one that I was like, that's it, that's what I'm gonna go with. And work smarter, not harder. There's no cheating in art unless you're using AI art, in which case that's not art, but but I was like, great, this looks great, so I just scanned what I already illustrated in my sketchbook, and here we are, because there's no reason to do it again when I've already got what I want down, at least, you know, a rough of it. So that's why we've already got this light, papery, rough sketch underneath everything. However, you still gotta go in and finish everything up. Yeah, you saw me, I had to shorten the arm, cause, dude, drawing arms the right length, it's one of the hardest things. I just want all of my characters to have clamp proportions, it seems. Like, specifically X-Holic, but like the anime, where they are langly. Here's an interesting tidbit here. So, you can see that I drew, like, rough circles first, and then drew the eyes around those. I don't do that often. However, I knew I wanted the lids to be pretty heavy for this picture, and something that I've found, it's easier, at least for me, to kind of draw how they would be if they were fully open first, and then draw, like, lid them from there, rather than just going in straight with a half-lid look, because otherwise I feel like I have the tendency to make them too wide, not quite what I want. So yeah, just drawing down a rough circle on like a different layer to help you kind of see where the eyes would be, to then, you know, change what you need to fit the shape you want them to be. That's my tip for that. Now we're going in with line art. You may have noticed, if you've seen Caboose McGrief's design, that currently the pants I've illustrated here don't have those very striking laces down the side. It's because somehow, I forgot about them. I do add that in. Well, I'll point it out when it happens. You'll see it. But yeah, I was just like, time for line art, go! And then I was like, I'll get to the pants, and it's like, wait, what am I fucking doing? The laces on the pants! So, let's talk about Caboose's design a little bit. I think it's very trendy. I had mentioned in the video announcing kind of the finalists, which you can find a link to somewhere, I'm sure, that it's a very hip design. It feels like very cool street fashion. And I described it as, like, something that looks like it belongs in, like, River City Girls. Like a cool beat-em-up. Here, it's happening. I'm drawing the laces. Like a cool beat-em-up game. And I think that added to the kind of vibe I wanted to go with for this picture. Because for this drawn out, I didn't want to just draw it again. I wanted to kind of really go above and beyond. It is, Caboose won. They are a winner, and I want them to have a really nice product here. And so I was like, I gotta draw like a more than just me floating in space, you know, how most of my drawn outs are. And I was like, I want to go with a kind of an edgy design, or an edgy vibe, I want it to be pretty heavily shaded, and we'll see that later down into the line. And I think the pants add a lot to that, or well, really the whole general kind of aesthetic of the look. From the get-go, I felt like this looked like it belonged in something like River City Girls or some other beat-em-up game. Like, putting a bat in my hand just felt right. And that's the really fun part of seeing other people's designs, is that, I wouldn't have jumped to any of these elements, these cool long sleeve things, this, like, crop top deal, the pants with laces, even though I love other, like, designs with laces on the pants like this. I don't know, it's just never something I jump to when I'm designing a look. And it's tons of fun. It was the whole reason why I wanted to see people's designs in the first place, was because I'm not the only brain on Earth. I love getting to see other people's interpretations of characters, and that goes for more than just my PNGtuber here. That it's across the board. I love seeing other people's art. I always do. Let's jump back into what's going on here. So the laces are also the thing that take the longest time for me to do in every step of this process. Which makes sense. And it's the thing where, so often for like shoelaces, I will not do them. I will like do some shitty crisscross lines, and that's it. But for this, I was like, that can't work. I need to really put in the time to make sure that these cool pants look right, because they're such a big element of the design. I had to make sure that the legs were visible for one thing, and that the laces were visible for another thing, because it's just like, it takes what was a very nice look and kind of gives it that one little extra oomph of like, oh yeah, this is good shit. You know what I'm saying? And so I had to make sure I put in the work for the laces, because otherwise it's just doing it a disservice. So it's time consuming, but that's the thing with art. It is time consuming. You know, if you're upset that it takes so long to draw whatever it is that you're doing. Yeah, that's kind of how it is with art. Yeah, and that's something you'll see, you know, people complain about with like their justification of using AI art is it takes too long otherwise. Yeah, art takes time. It's how it works. and I remember my teachers telling me, you know, why don't you spend a little bit more time on this piece? And I interpreted that as add more things to it, because I didn't know like how to make sure. Yeah, it takes time, because adding details and making sure proportions are correct and stuff like that, that's what takes time. You know, that's why it's time consuming. Making art, but also that being said, you know, if you can make something really quickly, it's not invaluable. You know, I also had that told to me a couple times, is, well, you draw so quickly, how about you make something good? And it's like, well, you know, you don't need to spend 13 years of your life on every piece. You know what I'm saying? Some people do, and their art is really good, and other people don't. You know, other people make a cute little thing in the afternoon, and it's also valuable. So, you know, that's, as always, there's no wrong way to do art. Speaking of, you know, let's talk about this really intense shading. I knew I wanted this, like, really cool, thick, heavy shading. You'll see stuff like this in like superhero comics a lot. This is a pretty a common occurrence in comics in general. Shiro Miwa is a huge inspiration of mine, and he has these pretty thick black shadows a lot as well. My tip, I put them on another layer. They're not on the same layer as the rest of my line art, so then I can erase them easily or lower the opacity if I want to. Don't ever be afraid to use another layer. There's no rules to art. If you need 17 layers, go for it. If you need more than 17, go for it. If you need less than 17, go for it. You do you. You do whatever works best for you, you know? And don't let people be like, you're doing this wrong. You should do it like this. You're gonna see something. This purple color is just so I can see my hair, because my hair is white and the background was white, and that was working well enough, but eventually it gets to a point where I'm like, I can't see. And two, you'll notice that heavy black shading I was just talking about is gone now, and it's because you'll see layers come and go an awful lot. The sort of vague background I had added a little bit ago is also currently missing, and I'm just floating in the void. That is so I can see what I'm doing better. You know, I get to a point where I just need to be able to see things a little bit more clearly. And also, those heavy shading layers will kind of fuck around with color as well. Just the way how some of the brushes work. It doesn't, like, it wouldn't necessarily ruin the picture, but it is just easier to get rid of some layers sometimes. So that's another thing. Don't be afraid to hide layers as you go. You don't need everything visible all at once all the time, necessarily. So another cool thing about this design is I really like the use of, I'm gonna describe it as extremely dark purple to create black. Personally, I do tend to jump to using straight monochrome colors, so all the way to the edge of my triangle over there, and, you know, just white to black and shades of gray. If I'm going to use white or, you know, a shade of gray, that's what I tend to do. However, I do recognize that there's a lot of value in not doing that, and Caboose McGrief did a good job here of using a really dark purple to still complement the rest of the color palette, but to still provide a black, effectively, color, because that's how values work. Very few things are straight up just black in the real world. Here's another good example of me getting rid of layers. So I'm adding some really intense shading here. I knew I wanted to be backlit, so most of me is going to be in shadow, and I'm laying down the parameter of where those shadows will exist. I'm showing myself where the highlights still are. And for me, just getting rid of all color helps make that a much easier process, because otherwise I get kind of like lost in all the different colors, and you know, doing it this way where I'm just, you know, one flat color helps me kind of focus on the dimension of things better, you know, because a big element to doing shading is focusing on how the shape of something will interact with light wrapping around it, which is a tough thing to kind of just lay down in terms of words, you know, but it's the thing of, if you shade in a ball, you know, you don't just put a flat line down the middle, you know, there's a curve to it. Things have curves, and in order for me to be able to pay attention to the curve of things, like the hair and the back and my shoulders and etc., you know, it's easier for me to get rid of all the colors for that step and just focus on the shape of a character. Other people, of course, do it differently, and like I said, never be afraid to do it differently. You know, I like watching other people do videos like this, speed paints, because we'll do things completely differently. Actually, a good example is my roommate Allison. She has a very different, like, process when it comes to illustrating than I do, and her art's still really, really good. So if you watch you know, one of my videos or anyone's speed paints and go, well, she does it this way, or they do it that way, and, you know, so I have to do it that way. Not necessarily. I think it is valuable to try different things. You know, you may see me do something that's like, I'm gonna try doing whatever process it is in the way she did. You know, I'm gonna try replicating her. I think that is valuable. I think that's a good way to learn new things. Because if you step outside your usual comfort zone, that forces you to approach problems differently, and you can learn some valuable stuff from that. But also, don't feel like you have to do things the same way as others, you know. Here's a little thing. So I suck at environments, I'm gonna be real. I know how to draw people, and every single day of my life that I try to draw comics, I curse the world for being so straight and for buildings to look so weird. I don't know, I'm bad. I'm bad at drawing locations. But I think a thing that can help alleviate things looking like just flat blocks floating around your characters, you know, is just add a little bit of texture. If you can add some texture to things, that helps a lot. Because otherwise it's like, boy, this is a flat world, and then like a really well done character. This is why people collaborate. because otherwise, like, it's just, not everyone can do everything. Don't beat yourself up if you're not the best at, you know, drawing every single different kind of thing. It's always valuable to try to push yourself and try to learn how to get better at doing different things if you'd like to, but also don't feel like, oh, I'm worthless as an artist because I can't draw horses. Yeah, horses are hard. Just keep trying, do your best, and, you know, make sure you're happy while you're doing your art. So yeah, the final thing, I forgot this step until the very end, so here's all the layers gone again, but Caboose has the horns kind of fade to white in their design. And I thought that was so much fun, and I was like, I can't believe I forgot the horns! I was so distracted with the laces. But Again, thank you so much for your amazing design. It was so much fun to draw. I hope you all enjoyed not only the process of the design challenge, but also getting to see me illustrate this picture here. I hope you all had fun, and have a great one. Have a good day.